All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's good to be back up here. So my talk here, I'm saying agriculture's role in monarch conservation. And really, I'm going to be focusing on what is Monsanto up to? How are we working with our customers? You'll hear a lot. Actually, we're going to have a little bit from the Texas and Oklahoma Farm Bureau. But, you think about all the other companies, BASF, Syngenta, Bayer, Dow and DuPont, pretty much all the major players are doing this in one way or the other. They're establishing habitat or working with their customers and trying to raise awareness about that. Monsanto's is the best, of course, but, it's how we roll. But, it's really, it's a neat thing because it's really, you think about the honeybee issues that are going on right now, concerns about native pollinators, monarchs as well. It brings in agriculture pretty broadly. And all these efforts we think can actually, they don't have to be for one specific species or one specific concern. They work pretty well, across the board. But when we think about monarch conservation, what we're interested in is, it's habitat expansion and getting the ag sector involved in that. How do we talk to a farmer and get them convinced this is worth your time and effort and money and continued maintenance to make this happen on your farm? And we do that by fostering partnerships, by being able to show them, we can get you connected with the people who know how to do this. We can get you connected with the people who are going to be thinking about, should this be an endangered species and what are they thinking? Can you actually put this on your property and have some assurance that this won't create trouble for you later? And and so when your goal is increasing, monarch habitat on an active agricultural landscape, that becomes pretty tricky because that farmer's got to earn a living on the bulk of that land. So what else? Where are those places where they could put monarch habitat and habitat in general? And so, I was talking about getting the farmers connected with people who know about this stuff, and getting these interests aligned, getting them talking to the government agencies, getting them talking to NGOs and environmental groups about how could this happen. Leading by example. So, we can't just go out and tell our customers, hey, you know what you ought to do? We actually have a lot of very nice grass. We're doing this on our own property and putting these habitats in so that people can see it and understand how it can work. And, this acting as a convener. Every year you have these major ag shows. One of the big ones is Farm Progress. It's up in Iowa and Illinois, alternates back and forth. It's just huge. And you get pretty much all of our customers up there and the customers of all the other companies. And we've got whole tents and we've got displays and we've got booths and you can see the new technology and you can come find out what you say to your brother-in-law when he tells you you're murdering the world with our products. And, so that's always the table that I get, which is a lot of fun. And, but one of the things we do there is talk about monarchs. We have seed, we have informational things to hand out to get people thinking about it. They can try it out and, and you start building awareness of it. And when you create that awareness, you can get people willing to try it out, and see, will this work for you on your farm and how could you fit it into your practices? And so, along these lines, I'll just bring the whole thing up. I love build slides. So these are some of the partnerships. We heard about our work with NIFWF yesterday, and we were getting in early with them, when the potential of listing the monarch was raised, we started connecting with NIFWF on that. Monarch Watch as well for providing free milkweed for restoration programs. Iowa State, we heard about that yesterday, doing some of the research, answering these questions. And really there's a lot of data gaps, as we all are aware, that need to be answered. And we work with Pheasants Forever, on our Monsanto sites. One of the ways we do that, say you've got a big patch of grass, you want to take that out, and you don't want to have bare dirt. You end up putting in, what we do is we put in Roundup Ready soybean seed. You plant that into the grass, you hit it with Roundup, you've got something there to protect the soil so it won't erode away. The next year it's ready to go. And this is actually a tactic that Pheasants Forever as well as Fish and Wildlife Service have used. And it can be pretty effective if you have the right conditions. Also doing some migration mapping and geospatial habitat mapping, so you can understand where the places things should be, what do we have now, how could it be improved in the future. And then also this Keystone Policy Center. This is a really neat group, operates out of Colorado. We work with them on honeybees and also on monarchs. And they do this a lot with, you've got say 5 stakeholders and nobody can agree on what's supposed to happen with whatever problem. Keystone can bring people together, find a way to work it out, find a way to solve that problem, and what are the common interests. And so I really like working with them. And then, our internal and external outreach. So this is, you're kind of stepping back from the farm scale at this point. But, just talking to our own employees about why is this important? Why should they be doing this at home? Why should, hand some seed to your neighbor, that kind of stuff. But then we go out to all sorts of community events. And, and it's neat because, you go to an event in downtown St. Louis, not many people want to talk about soybeans and corn with you. There's a few, but it's rare. The grain trade really doesn't come up very often. But you have something like monarchs and milkweeds, and you can talk to them about that, and how you can work that in with agriculture, and what is agriculture doing? It gets people pretty excited, and they think it's some way to relate to you. I actually do a lot of work going out and talking to dietitians. And this is one, we'll be at the conference, we'll speak, we'll have a booth, and you put the monarch stuff out, and it's, it's something they really weren't thinking about. They were there thinking about food and agriculture and all those sorts of things. You bring this, and it's a whole new way of engaging with people. It's a whole new way for them to think about what can agriculture do. And it can be a lot of fun. But then, establishing habitats, this is something we've been doing for a couple of years now. We've got 72 sites. We've actually now been getting them certified by the Wildlife Habitat Council, so we're up to 31 now. And we have these learning centers. So these are places, we have them in Illinois, Iowa, Nebraska. It's a place for customers to come out, see what the products are, check them out in the field, all that sort of stuff. And, and learn, what are the new things going on in agriculture? What are we thinking about? It also, you're bringing in school groups, you bring in academics, you bring in, we have groups of medical doctors come through, the dietitians come through. You get a pretty broad section of people. And so we're putting these monarch habitat gardens on all these sites to show our customers, this is how you can make it work with your property, and this is what agriculture can do. And, and we really emphasize this part about the ecosystem service, that it's a broad set of things that you can benefit by doing these, making these small gestures on big acres. And when we talk to the farmers, the number one thing, the farmers are the stewards of their land. They're the people who are in charge of making those decisions, and they have the ability to add this to their management practices. And we're all well aware, the acres where we have the most production in the U.S. overlap where we need to have the milkweed. And so then that becomes, another way of emphasizing to them, you have the land that's really needed here. And if we can get milkweed on your property, we can solve this problem. And then too, a lot of them already have something going on, whether it's soil conservation. We heard that from NRCS, all those different options. Work this into that, and it's a win-win for everybody. And so that, that's generally, the kind of things we're up to. There's always more ideas that we're trying to come up with, more groups we're trying to engage with. If you have any ideas, please let me know if there's more that we should be engaging with more. One of the things I don't have on here, because it's a newer idea we're working on, so we have a digital platform. This is a way for farmers to be able to track, I've got my field, and it's on an app, and I can see, the rainfall, the nitrogen, the climate it's had, the soil types, all that kind of stuff. And then as a farmer, I can tell it, okay, I planted these varieties here, these varieties there. At the end of the year, I see the yield, and I get feedback about, was that a good idea? Am I getting a good return on my decisions, or could I modify them somehow? And now we're working on an idea, is it possible then to just, if I turn it into habitat, I got 100 acres, this year it's corn, next year it's habitat, it disappears, I can't see it anymore. Well, what if I just, make the app aware that it can outline anything? It's a pretty simple step, and then say that's habitat now. And then I can put down in those records, what am I planting there? And you can go back and do monitoring. You could count the number of milkweed and be able to track it that way. There's a lot of options, and so that's one our digital team is kicking around. And hopefully, that's something will be coming to fruition in maybe the next few years. And with that, thank you very much. If you do have questions, again, I'm here through dinner and also through the app. Thanks a lot.